Okay, so this will be a feedback slash critique for Leggion. Oh baby. Alright, I mean you already know me. I'm pretty sure. But same as usual, I go by Shazam on the Discords or an Armor King Discord. I guess it's like Captain Schmuck, Fraud Esquire. I am by no means a Tekken professional. I'm just someone who enjoys a lot of Tekken, Armor King, playing Tekken, playing Armor King, fighting, playing Tekken against other people, fighting Armor King, etc., 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 right? I am by no means a Tekken professional. What I say is not to be treated as gospel, right? All I'm saying is, based on my experiences in Tekken, observing Tekken, watching intermediate, high level, beginner play, etc., 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 these are things that you need to be doing in order to improve your gameplay, right? And as you get more familiar with using these strategies, they will enhance your gameplay and lead to more success down the line. I will not be referring much to matchup knowledge. Just learn your punishes. I'm not going to be talking too much about that. What I'm going to be focusing on is the issue that your small Tekken is non-existent. Right? You're just, it's non-existent. You don't use jabs, you don't use down forward 1, you don't use down forward 4, you don't use down 4 at all during this matchup that I could see. Right? And it's one thing to say like, oh, I use it here and there, right? But that the issue, as I'll be trying to point out in various situations, is that the degree of your big Tekken move usage vastly outweighs the amount of small Tekken that you actually use, right? Why is this an issue? Because when you then try to use your big Tekken moves, your opponent is not afraid to mash. They don't have to be worrying as much, Steve especially, about any sort of speed coming from your tools, right? They don't have to worry about being disrupted by jabs, down forward 1, down 4, down forward 4, or any sort of situation, because they know that all you like to do is use a lot of like CD1, down back 3, these big Tekken moves, and if you're panicking, you'll use back 1+4. Right. However, if you instead used a bit more jabs for disruption to help reposition yourself, down forward to disrupt the Steve's offense and make him second guess it, right, and build up those habits, right, those conditioning tools, then you can maybe go somewhere and control the pace of the matchup. As it is right now, it's just not going to happen. I will be trying to avoid most of anything what people have already said, right? Jamie especially gave you a lot of pointers to follow. I'll just be trying to focus on pointing out issues where I'm like, look at when you use this move. Why not use a jab here? Right? Why not use a faster, more compact tool as opposed to these big commitment moves that you use a lot? Dude. All right. Is there anything comments in general? No. All right, let's get into it. Oh God, what happened to the quality? Oh, there, Clint's cleaning up. Okay, so right here, right, you use down 4 solid, but then miss the punish situation, right? While standing, Sonic Fang is minus, look up the punish it, right? Solid. You go for the throw. So, okay, you got hit here, right? You get the trade. Well, actually, I don't know how trades work. Because both of you, I need the frame data to verify, but you should typically have each other's frame advantage. Never mind. I don't think using the back one was that big of an issue. Okay, so like well, maybe it's because of previous situations, right? Why the overcommitment to slash kick here, right? Why not focus on dash blocking in and focus on asserting your positioning, right? You have the more advantageous position. His back is closer to the wall, but going for the slash kick there right? Given how often you've played before, he's going to be more familiar with your Oki habits, right? Especially when you did like slash kick into slash kick into slash kick into, into Shining Wizard, right? He's going to be like, okay, well, I can maybe move out of the way. This is going to be a running theme throughout a lot of your Tekken, where it's just like you use a lot of these big commitment moves because of the reward, but it's like you don't need to be doing this, right? These big reward moves aren't just they don't just give you the rewards out of nowhere. There's a lot that goes into it to reaching those rewards, right? You have to use the smaller moves here, and sometimes not even moves, just movement, to focus on getting more reward, to getting those bigger rewards and setting up for them, right? So like right here, instead of using the homing move, right, you could have maybe used like shoulder to really push them into the wall, maybe even forward 2-1. You'd have to practice and see if you'd still hit it with the hits. I think you should still be able to do it off that balcony break, right? Because the issue here, right, for combo, instead of the opponent flying directly towards the wall, now they're flying at an angle, right? And the wall carry just isn't as much. I think Jamie talked about it as well, but just experiment with your wall positioning here, right? Use forward 2-1. Use shoulder if you have to, if you're uncertain about forward 2-1. But something that just pushes the opponent to the wall as much as possible, giving you a lot more real estate to work with. And then when you have them in that grounded situation, just dash block in, right? You have the life lead, you have the position lead. You don't have to be making this commitment into slash kick, because now the Steve, okay, this quality is like really bothering me. I don't know why it's like this. The Steve doesn't have to do anything, right? He tech rolls, avoids your wake up kick, and now you're in a really disadvantageous position. Whereas before, right, his back was to the wall. If you just waited slightly, saw that he tech rolled, you can readjust your position to keep your advantage, right? It's just the issue of like just a little bit too trigger happy, right? And if just deep breath, slightly rein it in. Like you don't have to play like completely patiently, but you have to be a bit more measured in your offense, because it's gonna get you killed. Punish it better. There's not much else to say there. Here, okay, so like the last hit of this is a high, right? If you're not familiar with the Steve matchup, that's fine, but you're gonna have to put in the work to lab that matchup, right? You can't just be getting caught by all these strings. If he's just mashing all these strings and you're not answering them properly, he has no incentive to stop mashing out all these strings, right? Like, yes, some of his string pressure is very real, right? He uses his jab strings and his stance cancels, you just kind of hold it. But anything like that, if he commits to the down 2-1-2 or whatever, finishing that down 2 string, you should be blowing him up for it, right? And it's just got to practice the punish and be ready. And even if you duck and he doesn't finish the string, oh well, right? It is still a safer route than overcommitting to panic moves like this. Now you're back in the situation. This seems to work. I'm not sure if it's because he finished the string or not. This isn't that bad. That's like fine. Okay, so like all this time, right, when he's just pressing buttons on you, right? Why not use down 4? Why not disrupt him? Use down 4. Yes, you're at -2, which is obviously not great, but you can still utilize movement, right? Like you have clean movement. Like I'm watching this. Like you have a backdash, you have movement. So down 4, backdash. If he continues to advance, what mid is Steve advancing with you at that range, right? If he's advancing with down forward 2, which he hasn't shown that he's going to be doing yet, that's a whole different story, right? But because of how the Steve presses his offense and uses a lot of jabs, right? These are highs, that's a high, these are highs, that's a high, these are highs. All of these highs, you can use that knowledge to your advantage by just going, okay, I don't think he's ready to switch up to his mids yet. I'm going to backdash, down 4, backdash some more. If I see him advancing, I will be doing down 4 again. And just keep... The goal should be to disrupt his pressure and make him second guess his offense, right? So that gives you more breathing room. You're trying to slow down the pace of the match to a point where you can start using your slower, more controlling, or more powerful tools, right? Just being very passive on defense like you are isn't going to lead anywhere, right? Just waiting, and then pressing like a hop kick or other panic tool when you get frustrated isn't going to lead to anything, right? There's a difference between being passive and being defensive, right? So try to look for more opportunities about when you can disrupt your opponent. You want them to start second guessing their own offense, and they're not going to do that until you give them a reason to. Just pressing the occasional back 1+4 or hop kick or just panicking like that isn't going to really make them second guess it, right? You're playing AK, you're playing the character where it's death by 1,000 cuts. Even if your playstyle doesn't match that, right? AK is not one of those characters where you can just kind of like force this playstyle on it. You have to use your small Tekken tools at some point, right? You don't have to be like this poking god. You don't have to be like Jamie and be like this god at poking and using small Tekken. But you need to be utilizing these tools more often. Good tech roll, or not tech roll. Good grounded roll. Good patience on waiting for the Sonic thing. Jamie already talked about it. Down 3 is suicide. Just got smothered by offense. No, that's not that bad. Nice. Okay, so why down 2-4 here, right? What was your game plan after your +6 and the Steve is gonna be ducking? Or you in your experience, everybody seems to duck against you at these inopportune times, right? So why down 2-4, right? Even if you were to say that it worked, right? Well, is that really your best reward that you can get in this situation? Right? I just don't understand what exactly the reasoning is here. Oh, he'll duck. I'm like, okay, well, you have better options there, right? You have back 4, you have down back 1+2 because you're +6, and they're most likely going to be conditioned to duck, right? They're not going to be going, oh, I'm going to challenge him here, right? They're going to be expecting he's going to throw me, I'm going to duck, right? So you have down back 1+2, right? You have down forward 2-1, which isn't that bad. It's not the worst, right? You have forward 2. You don't have to commit to forward 2-1. Just using forward 2 to check and see, okay, are they ducking? Are they flash ducking on me here, right? Can lead to a decent amount of mind games. You have forward 3-4. All of those mid options with varying strengths and weaknesses, all of them far more rewarding and less committal than down 2-4, right? Experiment more with your mids after pressure. I think committing to down 2-4 is not where you want to be as Armor King, or just committing to that level of, hey, I'm going to leave myself -14 on block, right? Yeah, Steve isn't going to launch you, but he's still going to get a solid punish. And against any character, you're just building up bad habits. So, good call out. Okay, so like what? So I don't have inputs turned on here, right? You can check the replay if you still have this saved, right? What were you pressing here? I don't know. Like, sure, it's unfortunate timing, but it's like, what was your... Like, you know Steve has Blue Sonic Fang, you know how potent that Rage Drive can be. Why immediately challenge it when you don't have, like, a secured method of advantage here? I felt like you were too overeager on offense, and that's what got you killed. right? Like, I'm not saying here, this is where you want to jab, but like right here, you know how trigger happy this guy is on offense, right? Oh, you press back one, probably. You know how trigger happy this guy is on offense, and I think at this point you have to go, okay, I have the life lead, he's in rage, he's low on health, he's back us to the wall, this guy likes to mash buttons, in your words, right? So at that point, those should be signals in your head going, okay, let's just back up and wait and bait something out of him, right? Like, we've seen him play, this guy has not met a button that he doesn't like to press, right? So the waiting into the back one, I felt like was just too risky, right? I don't know. We'll talk about that later. See, this is what we're talking about, like right here, right? What'd you press? Probably forward, neutral 2. This is okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So excuse me. You know he's gonna advance forward. Instead of whatever button you were pressing, right? You should be recognizing your stage positioning here. Start sidestepping, sidestep left. No, sidestep right to start getting away from the wall, right? He's gonna try and pressure in, and then you can do sidestep right, down forward 4, sidestep right, down forward 4, sidestep right, something like that, right? Some sort of sequence that's like, okay, let me slowly get my back away from the wall, right? And then as he's advancing to try and maintain his advantage and his pressure, you can use more disruptive tools like down forward 4, right? Even if you whiff, right, he's not going to be whiff punishing you, right? The shit's really hard to whiff punish, right? Even if he blocks it, you're like, okay, well, I'm -4, I can continue movement, right? Or more than likely, right, when he's advancing like this with weave, he's just going to run into your down forward 4, right? More than likely. So that's another thing to consider, right? It's like, okay, whenever your back is to the wall, your default seems to be, all right, let me advance forward, put on a pressure option, and then that'll get me out of the wall. When it's like, no, you have a multitude of other options you should be exploring, right? And then like right here, why immediately go into back one? Why not set it up with something a little bit more, right? Do like just a jab, right? And on jab, on hit into movement, right? So to, again, get yourself out of the wall, right? Or doing something like jab into down forward 1, right? Your faster tools, which aren't going to be as committal. Like, if you're worried about him ducking a high, why immediately go into back 1, right? Back 1, like, jabs are going to be faster, have less whiff recovery, and avoid any sort of heavy commitment, right? They have to be really on point in order to whiff punish your jab. Versus back 1, they have like light years available to them to whiff punish, right? Experiment more. When you're under pressure like this, just use a single jab, right? Use a single jab, confirm, all right, on hit, I can maybe go for some pressure. On block, let me go for some movement, right? Something a bit more than, all right, let me just commit to like a panic tool, which seems to be like your current MO, which it's not the worst thing, but it's clearly not working out for you, which is the big issue, right? Like, is it a crime against the Tekken gods to use the panic moves you are doing? No, right? But clearly it's not working out. And we're trying to identify, like, okay, what's not working out? What can we do to change that, right? What can you avoid, like, getting stuck in these sort of awkward situations of, man, I'm just getting smothered by this dude's pressure. And it honestly is as simple as just jab, right? Jab, build up that momentum, and you're like, oh, it's only +1. I'm like, yes, but +1 enables a lot more, right? Like, sure. So, okay. Were you too slow? Like, you shouldn't be able to backdash that, right? It makes me wonder if the input was too slow. So maybe, I don't know which throw you were doing there. Wait, I can just look at it. I kind of look like both arms. I don't know, I'm fucking terrible at breaking throws. I don't know, whatever throw you're doing was too slow. Maybe experiment with like a faster throw option, but that's interesting. Or maybe, I mean, he is on Wi-Fi, so who fucking knows? Maybe some packet loss happened and you lost your advantage when you shouldn't have. Again, to the overcommittal string, whatever. And this is what we're talking about, right? At any point, right, should you have done down forward 4 here, this would have disrupted him. Should you have done down 4 here or down forward 1 here, this should have disrupted him. But your default when you get pressured is just press back 1. You're doing back 1 into back 1, right? And it's like, yes, back 1 is a counter hit launcher. Yes, very high reward. But it's not always going to work out. It's not always going to be the move you want to use, especially in this situation. In ambiguous situations like this, because once Steve, what is this called? Pab? Is this called Pab? Whatever the stance is called. It's very ambiguous, right? Because he can stand block in this stance. It's very hard to tell whether or not he's crouching or blocking. But you have a very easy, non-committal, mid-check option, right? That can just determine, is he ducking or is he stand blocking, right? Right? Just down forward 1. If he's ducking, right, he'll get hit, and then you can do mix-up or movement. If he's stand blocking, he'll block it, and then you can do just movement, right? Relying on back 1's very tricky because, he just does moves that high crush, and you just eat them, right? So your defensive habits are getting you killed, and there's not much to say here besides, you need to work on changing them. So, okay, so wait, what happened here? Why the immediate 4-3-4? What was the game plan here, right? I don't know. I guess this is my question to you: is what was the goal here, right? I guess you had the advantage. You're only +5. You had wall standing 4. Strange. Yeah, that's a tough decision. I don't necessarily disagree with this decision, but at the same time, it's hard for me to say, yeah, this is what you want to be doing. I don't know. I'll leave this here, but that's fine. Okay, why the CD1, right? Of all things you could be doing. It was just a panic option. At this distance, why, I want to hear your reasoning before I start commenting on theory, right? Why immediately try to opt for the down 4 or for the CD1? What was your game plan? What was your goal? And think about, could that have been better achieved through other means, right? Anyway, let's do the usual breakdown. Neutral, punishment / matchup knowledge, combo / Oki, personal opinion stuff. Neutral, small Tekken's non-existent, right? You just don't poke. You just don't. You're too, I don't know whether you just focus too much on the reward, right? Or your unfamiliarity with his small Tekken tools just makes you lose confidence in using them. But you have to just start getting better at trying to figure out where to place your jabs, where to place down forward 1, where to place down 4, right? Because all those options, you need the speed, right? Having a fast, high crush low against Steve is fucking huge, right? Playing a character without a generic down 4 or just a generic down 4 option versus not having it is a world of difference, right? Try playing something like Josie against Steve, right? And then using her down 4, which is good, right? But against his pressure, it's not always going to save you, right? But then, characters with just a generic down 4 can drastically change how that matchup plays out. And that's the thing you gotta, but you're not going to be able to utilize that if you don't have the experience and practice in utilizing that low. All right. Other aspects of neutral, just defensive habits are going to get you killed, right? Like you get some occasional reward with back ones, but when that becomes your default and you're not sure how to disrupt their offense, right? Sometimes it's going to be not even just down forward, just doing down forward one. Sometimes it's going to be movement. Sometimes it's going to be jab, right? Your reliance on just like, I don't know what's going on, I'm just going to back one, is more often going to get you killed more than anything, right? At best, the opponent just blocks it. You don't really do anything that much on their pressure because you're not really frame trapping them. You're just kind of pressing back one and hoping it works out, right? At worst, an opponent reading that just ducks and then they whiff punish you because back one takes light years to recover. Well, I guess light years are technically a measure of distance, huh? Whatever. They take 10 parsecs to recover. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, you understand, yes, back one is a good move, but when that becomes your default defensive option, it's just going to hurt you in the long run, which is the issue. I think a lot of the neutral will bleed into punishment / matchup knowledge as well, so we'll just talk about that. It's just kind of like your unfamiliarity with the Steve matchup, answering certain strings, how to disrupt certain pressure, right? You're not really answering it. You're not going, okay, he's going to do the down 2-1 string, I will block, and then just, if he finishes the string, I can punish him. If he doesn't, I can disrupt him in other ways and then focus on like movement or something, right? How to handle like more neutral, it just feels like unfamiliarity. And then also just the lack of consistent punishment on options you need to punish, right? Jab strings, back one, trying to punish those, that's a whole different story, right? But when he does like the uppercut, right? The shoryuken, back to back, like round start, and then your punish is like down forward 2-1, that's nothing, right? So experimenting more with your punish options and becoming more comfortable and having clean, consistent punishment, right? Like, yeah, your punishment, unfortunately, due to the pushback, you can't, like, always launch it. But because you can at least get a solid punish with something like forward 2-1, it'll make them second guess it, right? It'll make them reconsider, like, always relying on that option. That's just the overall running theme here, is that you're, instead of, killing the opponent with 1,000 cuts, you're just kind of not doing that. And so what ends up happening is that the opponent never feels any sort of pressure or any sort of fear, right? All of these missed opportunities you have could have easily won you the game or changed momentum and drastically changed the outcome of a lot of these rounds. But because they don't happen and you just kind of wait and then use your defensive habits of like going for back one, the Steve can just continue to smother you with his offense, right? You're not answering appropriately. Combo / Oki, Jamie talked about combos. Experiment more with your positioning, experiment more with your combo enders and how you choose to end certain things. Damage isn't always going to be the best route for combos, right? There's also a lot of things to consider, such as like stage positioning, right? Does the combo ender, is it going to sacrifice a little bit of damage but leave you in a much better, more advantageous position to pressure your opponent? Then it is worth it, right? Especially if the round's not going to end anytime soon, right? And also just being a little less trigger happy on offense as well, right? Just overall, just a little bit more patience. Again, you don't have to be like this passive, like the super iron wall of defense or anything. You just got to pump the brakes a little bit. Understand that your opponent likes to press buttons and then punish them accordingly. Personal opinion stuff. Oh man, options that I think are neat, but your mileage may vary. There's not much to add here. I think just focus more on practicing utilizing the small Tekken tools and understanding where they can become advantageous, why they can become advantageous. That's gonna be a core thing, right? And like the biggest thing is like if you're not using down forward to disrupt Steve's pressure, you're just gonna have a bad time, right? He's gonna freely be able to press buttons in your face, and you just kind of have to hold it. And unless you have a good sense of your opponent's timing, which you don't, it's not gonna be a fun time. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Anything that was unclear, anything that you're like, this doesn't make any sense, what do you mean by this? I will be more than happy to answer your questions or explain something that doesn't seem to make sense, right? But the overarching theme here is going to be patience and small Tekken, right? You just have to experiment more, right? There's just too many opportunities of, I'm going to commit to this big option, and then you get blown up for it. So experiment more with the small Tekken options. As you get more familiar, the opportunities of understanding of like when to use these is going to come a lot more clear to you. All right. Have a good one.